Thank you for joining us today. My name is Tyler McClure, and I am excited about the opportunity to serve as your moderator for today's topic, self-care. Joining me today is Ms. Trina Stanford. Ms. Trina Stanford is a woman on a mission who is intentional on teaching and encouraging others to be their best selves, which is her calling and her purpose. She holds a master's degree in counseling and has 25 plus years in the healthcare industry, which she has held various leadership training and coaching positions. During times such as these, self-care is an extremely timely, relevant, and an important topic that needs to be discussed. Please help me welcome Ms. Trina Stanford.
Thank you so much, Tyler, for that warm introduction. Before we dive into talking about self-care, I wanted to first say how grateful I am for this opportunity to be able to talk about something that I'm extremely passionate about. As Tyler indicated, in times such as these, during this pandemic, we all have a heightened sense of anxiety and fear. So in talking about self-care, what the purpose is today and the objective is to offer some practical strategies that people can utilize to help them through this unprecedented time of this high anxiety and high stress. So again, I'm very grateful for being here and very grateful that you are the moderator.
Thank you. We're excited to have you. So let's get right into it.
Oh, absolutely.
So now more than ever, we're hearing a lot of talk about self-care, right? Mm-hmm. Can you explain what self-care is exactly?
So what self-care is it is an activity that is deliberate, that we do deliberately in order to take care of our physical, emotional, mental, social, and spiritual selves. Most times when people think of self-care, they're thinking of the physical component, the body, as far as, I need to work out, I need to take care of my body. But self-care is so much more than just the physical component of it. The physicality of self-care is just one small component of it. What I'd also say is that self-care is something that is fuel for the soul. So it's something that we all are in need of.
So with the dramatic and abrupt life changes that the pandemic has caused, can you tell everybody why self-care is important?
So during times such as these, self-care is important, but it's even more important during times of this pandemic, which is, we're in a constant state of anxiety, a constant state of stress. And if I may digress here just a little bit to tell you why self-care is so important, is that as a society as a whole, we're not practicing self-care. If you review some of the leading health indicators set by the public health officials, the following statistics, if I may bore you here just with some statistics, it just conveys we're not as good at safeguarding our overall health. For instance, for mental health, 1 in 4 Americans have a mental health disorder. Among blacks, that number is 2 in 9 have a mental disorder. Eating habits, fewer than 1 in 3 adults eat the recommended amount of fruit and vegetables every day. Exercise. What do you think the percentage of Americans is who don't exercise? Just hazard a guess.
74%.
81.6%. 81.6% of Americans do not participate in adequate amount of exercise. Obesity, more than 1/3 of Americans are obese. When we're talking about substance abuse, per the 2018 National Survey on Drug Use and Health, 5.9 million, resonate on that just a minute, 5.9 million blacks had a mental and or a substance use disorder.
Wow.
Also, co-occurring issues, substance use is much more frequent among blacks who have mental health issues. And another sobering statistic, depression and suicide. Did you know that the suicide rate among black youth is increasing faster than that of any other racial groups? Suicide attempts rose by 73%
Wow.
between 1991 and 2017 for black adolescents. This sobering statistics is from the Congressional Black Caucus Emergency Task Force that they did on black youth suicide and mental health. So when you ask the question, why is self-care so important? Those are some sobering statistics
Absolutely.
on why self-care is important. Self-care is also important because it nourishes our mind, it nourishes our body and our spirit. So if we think of our bodies as a battery, batteries lose energy, right? What self-care is self-care is that charge that recharges those batteries. Self-care is necessary to keep those batteries operating at our most optimal, kind of like the Energizer bunny. That's what self-care does for us. Also, self-care reduces the risk of certain diseases such as diabetes and cancer. But most importantly, self-care is important because we have been created by God
Absolutely.
as masterpieces who are fearfully and wonderfully made, as Psalm 139 says.
Amen.
And as masterpieces that have been created, isn't it important that we do all we can with self-care to make that masterpiece the best that it can be?
Absolutely. Wonderful. As we move on to our third question, is self-care about self-acceptance or is it more?
It's so much more. Self-care is so much more than self-acceptance. Self-acceptance in its most simplest form means accepting yourself fully for who you are, flaws and all. When we talk about self-care as deliberate activities that we do physically, emotionally, mentally, socially, and spiritually, self-care transcends self-acceptance. Think of it, self-care as self-acceptance 2.0. Yeah.
Up the ante a little bit.
Up the ante a little bit.
Even
Absolutely.
more so because if you're a masterpiece, you would want to, yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Not settling just for being yourself. but-
Absolutely.
Absolutely. That's great.
Absolutely.
So, can you tell us what are the 5 keys to self-care?
The 5 key areas for self-care are, I like using the acronym PIMS. I'm a
PIMS.
big PIMS.
How do you spell that?
P for physical,
Okay.
E, emotional,
Emotional.
M, mental, S, social, S, spiritual.
PIMS.
PIMS.
PIMS. You guys got that? PIMS.
PIMS. PIMS.
Do you have any suggestions as to some self-care activities in each area?
Absolutely, and I'm glad that you asked that. So when we talk about the first self-care area, which is physical, we're talking about our body. We're talking about what are those things that we can do that would enhance and make us, our bodies getting the fuel that we need. So are we eating a balanced diet? Are we including those fruits and vegetables?
Yeah.
Are we drinking? Are we staying hydrated? Are we getting enough adequate rest and sleep? Are we sleeping 7 to 8 hours? I probably need a little more sleep than you do, being a millennial, but it's still
You're younger than me. Come on now. Come on now.
it's still important that that you get that adequate rest. Regular exercise. It's very important that you exercise and that you do those things that you like to do, things that get you moving. whether it's dancing or walking or running or cycling, basically doing those things that make you, that keep that energy, that keep that energy going. The second key area of self-care, emotional. This is important where you're nurturing your soul. This is in staying in touch with how are you feeling? By listening to your feeling, identifying those emotions, and coming to a conclusion about how it is that you feel. We talked about how during this pandemic there's heightened areas of feeling stress, anxious. You can just feel it in the energy of everyone. Everyone's just super, you can just feel they're super stressed and just super, don't come too close to me. Are you 6 feet apart? You just see the fear and the anxiety and stress. So some of the things that can be done are positive daily affirmations. Letting yourself know that this too shall pass.
Absolutely.
We got this. We'll get through this. Laughter. There's nothing like a good belly laugh. Finding those good jokes, or even finding those bad jokes, because sometimes bad jokes are even funnier than funny jokes. But finding that laughter. Gratitude journaling. One of the things that I do at the end of every day is I write down 3 things that I'm grateful for. And even during times such as this, we have lots to be grateful for.
Absolutely.
We have lots to be thankful for. Finally, I'd say probably the most important thing is actually being of service to others.
Absolutely.
Giving of yourself. Because when you're giving of yourself and you're helping others, you're not focused on self, but you're focused on helping someone else.
Absolutely.
So by helping someone else, you're also helping yourself. Does that make sense?
That makes perfect sense.
The third key self-care area is mental. And so when we think of mental, the way you think and things you fill your mind with is what you become. So such as eating. You can make junk food choices or you can make healthy food choices. The same thing with your mind. You can make junk mental choices or you can make healthy mental choices. The choice is yours. So what are some of the things that you can do? Give yourself a break from social media. Did I say that? Give yourself a break from social media. TV. Too many people are immersed in the doom and gloom that's on TV. Turn the TV off. Turn the Twitter off. Turn the Facebook. Turn the Snapchat off. Instead of looking and seeing what your latest celebrity is doing, turn that off and spend time on self. Do some journaling. Read a book. Do people still read books?
People still, yes.
Listen to a podcast. Practice setting healthy boundaries by saying no to others, but saying yes to yourself. You get to decide. The fourth self-care area is social. We're all social beings, and we all need connectedness during this time. So in this time of social isolation, I know you and I had spoken earlier.
Yes, ma'am.
What are some of the things that you've done? Because you had mentioned that you're an extrovert.
Extrovert. I am an extrovert.
So what self-care things did you do are you doing during this time?
Well, you tapped into a couple of points. Starting off, when I heard that we had to be stuck in the house, as the extrovert, I panicked. And so once I came to grips with talking to God about, this is a good opportunity to grow closer to Him, that anxiety kind of went away. So that kind of speaks to the spiritual point that's coming up next. So that allowed me to be at peace spiritually and mentally with what I had to do. But I took the opportunity to write a little bit. I do a lot of poetry, so it allowed me to tap into that side of my creativeness. Allowed me some time to just sit with my music. A lot of times I listen to my music, my gospel music, but it's always in transition to somewhere else in the car. This time I was actually able to drown in it and be engulfed in it to allow it to really hit my spirit. But even in the physical part, since I know that my age group, the millennials, shout out to the millennials, since I know that we were least at risk, I use that for good. Instead of being out partying or doing things of that nature, I'd use it to serve others. So I would stop by somebody's house and bring communion, or I would take something to somebody if they needed food, or things of that nature. So that allowed me to get that feeling off of needing to be out. I'd be out doing something with purpose. And so in turn, if I'm fulfilling a purpose that God will want me to fulfill, in turn, that allows those endorphins to kind of rise in me to find that satisfaction with being able to exercise my extroverted activities.
Great. You need to sit over here.
No, you got it. You got it.
But that's exactly you're right on point. Spending time with people who are kind, compassionate, and loving, those with Christ-like qualities. So you're surrounding yourself with those people who are like you, trusted family members and friends. So you're right on point. And the fifth self-care area, spiritual. So what you just said, serving with purpose. That's really it in a nutshell. Praying daily, spending time reading the Bible and being of service to someone. Memorizing those Bible passages that actually help you through. What's your favorite Bible passage? My
favorite Bible passage is Romans 8:28. For we know that all things come together for those who love God are called according to the purpose.
Absolutely.
It's my favorite.
I would also say being still. When you're still and you just silence and allow for God to come in, wonderful things can happen as a result. Also, you brought up something, using your God-given gifts. So whatever it is, that gift that God has given you, I'd strongly encourage you to use that. You had mentioned that music is one of your gifts, and writing.
Writing, yes, ma'am.
Okay. So I would encourage those of you to really get in touch with what your gifts are and using those gifts to help, for the spiritual self-care.
That's going to wrap up our first part. That was wonderful, Ms. Trina. Thank you so much. I think you've touched on a huge part. You touched on why it's important. You touched on what it means. You even gave us an acronym, PIMS, physical, emotional, mental, social, and spiritual, which is great. So that's something that we can take away this week as we talk about and introduce self-care. I hope that everybody was able to take away some pointers in regards to where they can increase. From the data that you were given, the statistics, it's very prevalent and necessary for us, especially as a minority community, to take heed to what you're giving us and implement these things into our lives, especially during this time. And what better time to implement it now, right? So we thank you for your participation, and it's been wonderful to moderate alongside you. So thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you.
Thank you.